All right, so imagine this, okay? You're Queen Victoria's goddaughter, right? Living like a princess. But then you decide to risk it all to fight for women's right to vote.
Wow.
That's Princess Sophia Dalip Singh's story, and let me tell you,
It's wild.
wild.
It's incredible.
Today we're diving deep into her life.
Yeah.
From the palaces of India to the front lines of the suffragette movement in the UK, we've got a ton of sources.
Oh, yeah.
Historical accounts, personal anecdotes, even a stamp with her face on it,
Wow, a stamp.
commemorating the centennial of women's suffrage.
That's fascinating. You know, we often see history as just a before and after, like, okay, women got the vote, end of story.
Right.
But Sophia's life blows that idea apart. It shows the real struggle behind that victory.
Absolutely. So let's rewind to Sophia's childhood. I mean, picture this. She's born to Indian royalty. Her dad's a Maharaja. They have exotic animals roaming around their palace.
It sounds unbelievable.
It does. But
And-
then, at 11 years old, she's exiled to England, living under the watchful eye of the British crown.
What a change, huh? From a palace in India to Victorian England?
Talk about a culture shock.
Yeah, on one hand, she's royalty with a rich heritage. But on the other, she's a ward of the empire that took her family's power.
It's a real contradiction.
Totally. And that really shaped her and led her to activism.
You'd think she would have just lived as a socialite, fancy parties and all that.
Right. But something else was calling her.
It was the women's suffrage movement,
Exactly.
Yeah.
She joined the Women's Social and Political Union, the WSPU.
the more radical group, right?
Yeah, they were known for pushing the limits.
And Sophia was right there with them, even during Black Friday in 1910.
That was a brutal clash between suffragettes and the police.
And Sophia stood her ground. There's even a story of her confronting a police officer who was attacking another woman.
Wow. She was tiny, but she was fearless.
The government tried to silence her. They knew they couldn't just arrest her. That would make her a martyr.
Smart.
So they did things like taking her to court for not paying dog licensing fees.
What licensing fees? Seriously.
It sounds ridiculous.
It was a way to discredit her, make her look irresponsible.
But the suffragettes turned it around.
They did. They went to the auction where they were selling Sophia's diamond ring.
Oh, wow. They were selling her ring.
Yeah. And they refused to bid until the price was super low.
Clever.
It was a powerful statement.
So the WSPU starts doing more extreme things. Arson, smashing windows, even messing with the mail.
It got intense.
And Sophia's still with them, even though some suffragettes disagreed with those tactics.
Yeah. There were definitely divisions in the movement.
And Sophia's position as an Indian princess made things even more complex.
Absolutely. But she never gave up on the cause.
Then World War I starts, and everything changes. The WSPU stops their aggressive actions to focus on the war effort.
Makes sense.
And Sophia becomes a Red Cross nurse, taking care of wounded Punjabi soldiers.
Wow, that's incredible.
It is her Indian heritage and her British life coming together in a powerful way.
And she also organized an India Day fundraiser, showing her dedication to both countries.
She really used her platform to advocate for multiple causes.
And the war changed everything for women. It showed they were capable and resilient.
And that led to the Representation of the People Act in 1918.
Finally, some women in the UK got the right to vote.
It was a huge victory. But I bet it was also bittersweet for Sophia,
Why do you say that?
because the organization that had given her purpose was suddenly gone.
You're right. What happens to a person after they dedicate their life to a cause that wins?
Exactly. What's next?
It's something a lot of people can relate to. What do you do when the thing you've poured your heart into is over?
It's like, okay, now what?
Yeah, it makes you think. And for Sophia, the years after the movement were tough, but she was strong. You know those tensions with the British government? Well, they didn't just vanish after women got the vote.
Right, because she was also connected to the movement for Indian independence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And her family history, her outspokenness, it all made her a problem for the British establishment.
And that caused real problems for her.
It did. She had money troubles partly because of those tensions, and she felt isolated from her old social circles.
It shows that even with wealth and status, you can still face real struggles.
Absolutely. But even then, Sophia was resilient. She didn't fall apart. She found new ways to contribute and made new connections in unexpected places.
Like with Boozy, her housekeeper.
Oh yeah, Boosie became a true friend and a source of strength for Sophia.
They have a special bond.
They did. Boosie wasn't afraid to tell Sophia to stop pouting, and Sophia really valued her wisdom and loyalty.
It says a lot about Sophia that she connected so strongly with someone from such a different background.
It does. She valued real connection. And their relationship wasn't just practical support. Sophia became the godmother to Boosie's daughter.
Ah, that's sweet.
It is, and Sophia took it seriously. She told her goddaughter, "You are never ever not to vote. You must promise me when you are allowed to vote, you are never ever to fail to do so. You don't realize how far we've come."
Wow, that's amazing. It shows how much the fight for suffrage meant to Sophia.
It does,
Yeah.
and it shows she wanted to pass that on to the next generation.
It's a big part of her legacy, those personal connections she made.
Right. Remember Michael Sarbert, the child Sophia took in during the Blitz?
Yeah, that story is heartbreaking. Years later, after Michael had died, his family found pictures of him with Sophia and a letter saying he wanted his ashes scattered at her country home.
It's incredible. It shows the impact she had on people, even in those quiet moments away from the spotlight.
It's like a secret chapter in her story. A reminder that even famous people do kind things that affect others in ways we might never know.
And it makes us think about legacy. What does it mean to live a life of purpose? How do our actions, big and small, shape the world around us?
It's a big question.
Yeah.
But for now, let's focus on something else about Sophia. She was always defying expectations, her whole life.
Oh, definitely. I'm curious what comes to mind when you think about Sophia defying expectations.
Well, I mean, just look at her as an Indian princess being raised in Victorian England.
Oh, yeah. Talk about a culture clash.
Right. She was supposed to follow these strict British rules, but she never let go of her Indian identity.
You're so right. She refused to be put in a box. And we see that again with the suffragette movement. She could have just supported them from afar, writing checks and going to fancy events.
Exactly.
But Sophia wasn't like that.
No, she jumped right in protests, confronting the police, even those dog license things.
She was a force.
It was like she was challenging the system to try and stop her.
And don't forget about her support for the WSPU when they became more radical. She put her reputation on the line, maybe even her freedom.
It was a big risk.
It was. She was pushing the boundaries of what was acceptable for women and for someone of her status.
Even after women got the right to vote, she kept defying expectations. She didn't just disappear, she kept fighting for social causes.
She did. She never stopped advocating for women and marginalized communities.
All while dealing with the British government and money problems.
It's amazing. She didn't have the same power or money as before, but she still made a difference.
It shows her resilience and her dedication to justice. It wasn't about fame for her.
No, it was about something deeper.
I think that's why her story is so inspiring. She shows us that we don't have to fit in. We can make our own way, challenge the rules, and fight for a better world.
And we don't need a royal title or a ton of money to do it. Look at Sophia, taking in a child during the war. Small acts of kindness can make a big impact.
It's about the choices we make, the values we live by, and the connections we make with others.
It's about living a life that's true to ourselves and what we believe in, even when it's hard, even when it means going against what people expect.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Sophia Dalip-Singh's incredible life, we want you to think about this. What expectations are you defying? What kind of impact do you want to have on the world?
Sophia's story shows us that history is more than just big events and movements. It's also about the individual choices we make that shape our journey together. We all have a role to play, a story to tell, and a legacy to create.